In this tutorial, we will go over how to calculate risk in Aquatwin Asset. Please refer to the Getting Started document or the Importing Data video to connect data to Aquatwin Asset using the asset registration. To start the risk analysis, click on the Risk button in the Aquatwin ribbon, or you can also come down here to the Risks folder in the Asset tab of the Data Explorer and right-click on Risk and click on New. This is where all your different risk scenarios will be saved. I'll just go ahead and come up here and click on risk. For the likelihood of failure data source, you're going to have two different options. If you ran the AI machine learning for failure for your pipes, you can use those results as your likelihood of failure. You can also use any GIS data that you have imported into the software. I'll come back to explain these two boxes in a few minutes. Now I'll click on next to go to the next step. When starting from scratch, you will have no likelihood of failure criteria loaded into the LOF dialog box. To add a criteria, click on Add. You see that you can give it a name, a weight, and then you can choose the different type of scoring method. Here's a summary of these different risk types. So now I'm going to start adding some different LOF criteria into my risk model. The first field where I'm going to look at is material. So you see this is just an attribute of the pipe feature class, and we're going to look at the material field. If I click on the scoring for the material field, you'll see that it's actually going to find all the different unique values of material since that's a text data type. And then I can apply a score based on all of those different unique values. But I'll just leave this as is right now. The next criteria we'll add will be the install date. And again, that's just going to be another field of the pipe feature class. So I'm just going to click OK. If I come to the scoring with dates, you'll notice that the oldest date is actually the one that's going to have the higher score. And I can actually change the different number of breakers if I want. And any of these scores or breakers, I can come in here and manually type in values as well. The last criteria that we're going to add is going to be a digital twin type. And so this is going to be looking at the hydraulic model that's embedded within this Aquatwin asset project. And for this one, we're going to look at maximum velocity. So click OK. And since this is a numeric data type, you see that this is going to be based on different value of fields. And again, I can come in here and manually change the breakers, and all these are going to be in feet per second since this is the units that we're using for velocity in the hydraulic model as well. So now what I'm going to do is just click on next, and you'll see that my total LOF and LOF for the three type criteria are all calculated in this step. Now what you'll notice here is that since my total LOF, it's actually summing up all the different of the three LOFs. But if you remember back on that first page, this is where I say that I can use the peak LOF as the total LOF, or the COF as total COF. And so an example would that be if I checked this box and I came back to my LOF scoring, you see since this time right now it's summing all my LOFs, if I had that box checked, my total LOF would just be the max of these three. In this case, would just be the value 3. So now we'll go ahead and move on to our COF criteria. The first COF criteria we're going to add is just going to be the diameter, which is another attribute of this pipe feature class field. So I'm just going to come down here and click on diameter. Again, since this is a numeric data type, all my scoring is going to be based on different interval values, which you can manually set. The next COF I'm going to add is going to be a proximity. And so what I'm actually going to look at now is I'm going to come here and click on proximity. And the field or the layer that I want to look at is school. And so if you also had a different unique values for school, such as elementary school, middle school, or high school, you can actually select a field based on from that school feature class to get even more detailed with the scoring. But I'll just go ahead and leave it with school. And you can see I'm searching for a max distance of 500 feet. Now if I come to scoring, you see now my breakers are just going to be values from distance away from the pipes. So the closest pipes, the ones within 100 feet, are going to have the highest risk scores or consequence of failure score. The last one I'm going to add is going to be a hydraulic model one again using this digital twin type. And the field we're going to look at this time is maximum flow. And again, since this is a numeric data type, my scoring needs to be based on an interval, and that's fully customizable to you as the user. And now I'm going to click next to score all my different COF criteria. You'll notice that the dialog box for the LOF and COF, everything is the exact same interface-wise when creating these different criteria, and you can see my results here now. And now I'm going to go ahead and click next to go to my different risk calculation methods. There are three different ways to calculate risk in Aquatwin Asset using the previously calculated LOF and COF. You have risk scaling, risk grouping, and risk rating. Risk scaling is the traditional way to calculate risk, and it's just calculated by LOF times COF is equal to risk. There's also an option to apply a risk weighting to the different LOF and COF values, and this option is actually available in all three risk calculation methods. The second risk calculation method is risk grouping, and this is more of that traditional risk matrix approach. You see that my different dividers are down here in the bottom, and I can actually change this from 3 by 3, 4 by 4 to 5 by 5, and you can see the different dividers will populate as I change the size of that risk matrix. But from here, this is fully customizable to me as the user, and I can come in here and change any of the different risk results based on the LOF and COF results. The last method is risk rating, and this is similar to the risk scaling method, except it actually will take a certain percentile of the values and assign them as extreme risk, high risk, medium risk, and you can set these risk percentiles right here. You also can use absolute risk score values if these are already known values, or you can just use a percentage of them. For this example, I'll just use the risk rating approach and click on next. So now looking through the risk output, if I expand this out, you'll see that every single asset is going to have a risk score, which, based on our risk calculation method, was just the total COF multiplied by the total LOF. You see, based on those percentiles for the risk rating method, we also have a risk level. And so what you can do is actually grab this risk level in any of these field headers, drag it up here, and now you can kind of turn this into a pivot table. But I'll go ahead and bring this back down here. You'll see there's also a normalized risk score, which is based on the maximum total risk score. There's also a normalized LOF based on the maximum total LOF. So now I'll go ahead and exit out of this. To reopen that output for the risk results, you see it's in the Asset tab of the Data Explorer for this risk folder. If I just double click on that, I can reopen it. Now, when it comes to visually seeing the output of the risk analysis, what you can do is come up here to the map. Now what this does is it allows you to create a color ramp to show your results based on your risk results. So for this example, let's just look at the total risk level and click on Create Map. And this can be done for everything in your map, or this can also just be on an ArcGIS selection of the map as well. So you don't have to map the entire project every single time. So now that this is done, I can close out of this. And now if I come down to my contents pane, you can see there's actually a whole new feature class in my contents pane based on that pipe risk.